Hello children, so welcome to our next video in which we will talk about some more drugs and their actions. Up to last video we have studied about neurologically active drugs. So here we will start with antimicrobials. Antimicrobial drugs are those drugs which prevent the action of pathogens or microbes in our body. They can be like bacteria, antibacterial drugs, fungi, antifungal drugs, or action of virus is prevented by antiviral drugs. Antimicrobial drugs can be of many types, like the first one in this category is antibiotics. Antibiotics are those drugs which are either completely or partly synthesized synthesized chemically, and in low concentrations they inhibit the growth or even destroys the microorganisms by intervening in the metabolic process. Paul Ehrlich is the first scientist who developed arsenic based compound arsphenamine, popularly known as salvarsan. It is used for the treatment of syphilis. But this drug is actually toxic to humans, so later on he developed another drug which is known as Prontosil, and this Prontosil drug is the pioneer drug which has started the synthesis of many sulfa drugs like sulfapyridine. Antibiotics can be classified on the basis of how they control the microbial disease. It is of two types. Bactericidal drugs means these drugs kill microorganisms in the body, for example penicillin, ofloxacin. And the second category is bacteriostatic drugs. They don't kill but they inhibit the growth of microorganisms, for example erythromycin, tetracycline, and so on. There is one more classification related to antibiotics which is based on the spectrum of their action. This is a very important part with respect to board examination. Many times the questions have been asked from this part. The first one is broad spectrum antibiotics. These are those drugs which are effective against a wide range of gram positive and gram negative kind of bacteria like ampicillin, amoxicillin, etc. Narrow spectrum antibiotics are those antibiotics they are effective mainly against either gram positive or gram negative. Understood children? Broad spectrum is effective both for gram positive and gram negative, where narrow spectrum is effective either against gram positive or gram negative bacteria. For example, penicillin G is a narrow spectrum antibiotic. Next in this category is limited spectrum antibiotic. These are effective only against single organism or single disease. So this is known as limited spectrum. Then the second part related to antimicrobial drug is antiseptics. Antiseptics are the chemicals that either kill or prevent the growth of microorganisms and are applied to living tissues, such as if we have cuts or wounds or ulcers or any kind of disease on skin surface, we generally use antiseptics. So these drugs are used on the living tissues. For example, we generally use furazine, soframycin, and so on. A very commonly used antiseptic is Dettol, which is a mixture of chloroxylenol and terpineol. Bithionol is also very commonly used antiseptic. It is actually used in medicated soaps. Iodine is a very powerful antiseptic. There is one more common antiseptic, boric acid, which is generally used for eye washes. Except antiseptics, there is another kind of antimicrobial drug we generally use in our day-to-day life. This is disinfectant. Disinfectant are those drugs which kill microorganism on inanimate, that is non-living substances. They are generally used as floor cleaners or to clean the surgical instruments and so on. For example, chlorine in concentration of 0.2 to 0.4 ppm is very good disinfectant. disinfectant. In fact, I need to stress on one thing, children. There are few substances which on low concentration acts as antiseptic, but in high concentration they act as disinfectant. Like phenol. Phenol is used as antiseptic as well as disinfectant. In 0.2% phenol is used as antiseptic, while 1% phenol is used as disinfectant. Now the next category is anti-fertility drugs. These drugs are used for prevention of conception by suppressing ovulation in females. They are also known as birth control pills. These drugs are actually they contain synthetic estrogen or progesterone, or the combination of both of these hormones. Synthetically produce estrogen and progesterone, since these hormones are female hormones and they control ovulation process in females. Hence these drugs are used for suppressing the ovulation, and thus they can able to control the population. Popular example in this category is norethindrone and ethylene estradiol. Then we are moving to the next category of drugs, that is chemicals in food. Chemicals in food are generally added either to prevent food or to beautify the food, enhancing their appeal, and sometimes they add nutritive value. There are chemicals which add nutritive value in food as well. So we use a large number of chemicals in foods. The first in this category is artificial sweetening agents. Popularly diabetic patients or the persons who want to control the calorie intake, they use artificial sweetening agents. There are many artificial sweetening agents like aspartame, saccharin, sucralose, allitame. These are the commonly used artificial sweeteners. Like aspartame is a sweetener which is most widely used. Chemically, it is the methyl ester of dipeptide formed from two amino acids, aspartic acid and phenylalanine. There is one problem with aspartame, that it is limited only to cold foods, because at high temperature this drug breaks. So its use is only limited to cold foods like ice creams and cold drinks. Saccharin is a very popular artificial sweetener, and it is not biodegradable and does not have any calorific value of food. It is excreted as such in urine. Allitame is also similar to aspartame, but it is more stable than aspartame. It is about 2000 times sweeter than sucrose. This is a big problem with allitame, that it is so much sweet that it is difficult to control the sweetness in food where allitame is added. Okay, so these are some popular you can say artificial sweeteners. One more artificial sweetener is sucralose. It is trichloro-derivative of sucrose. It looks and tastes like sucrose and is stable at temperatures used for cooking and baking. It is about 600 times sweeter than sucrose. Hence it neither provides calories nor causes any kind of tooth decay. So sucralose is also a very common artificial sweetener what we use. We know the many artificial sweeteners which come by the commercial name like sugar free and all. So these contain artificial sweeteners. Then the next category of chemicals in food is food preservative. Food preservatives are very important chemicals because they enhance the storage life and prevent the spoilage of foods, like due to microbial growth. They prevent the spoilage of food due to microbial growth. Some very commonly used food preservative are salt and sugar. They both prevent the food. And sodium benzoate is a chemical which we use in sauce, jams and pickles, etc. And it is a very good food preservative. Sometimes salts of sorbic acid and propanoic acid are also used as food preservative. Then last but not the least is antioxidants. Antioxidants are the substance that prevent the oxidation of food materials. For example, butylated hydroxytoluene and butylated hydroxyanisole, BHA and BHT, butylated hydroxyanisole and butylated hydroxytoluene. These are the most commonly used antioxidants. Actually, BHA is added in butter, which increases its storage life. So these are some common drugs. In our next video we will talk about some more drugs. Thank you children.